right, so we're on our third video. We left off with this problem, and now we are going to try to figure out, solve for W and X. And when I say solve for W and X, we're finding the length of W and the length of X. To help us out, I am going to write so, ka, toa. When I'm doing trig, I always write it down just so I have it, so I can look at it real quick instead of trying to do it in my brain, which eventually you're going to be able to do that pretty quickly. Some of you are already there. Now I am stuck because I need to know what X is and I need to know what W is using SOHCAHTOA. The only thing that I know when you go back to number 13 is that, or I'm sorry, number 14, we know that the sine of 40 equals 0.643. So, this is where I might lose a couple of you, so we're going to go slow and have questions. So I'm just going to focus on the sine of 40 right now. And I know sine is opposite over hypotenuse, right? So if I look at 40 degrees and I look at my opposite, what do I get? 10. When I look at my W, what do I get? W, right? Or I'm sorry, not my W. When I look at my hypotenuse, I get what? W. Okay, so I know that the sine of 40 is equal to OH, right? Opposite? Opposite, which is what? 10 over hypotenuse, which is W. Yes, no? Okay, now sine of 40, just to make things really clear, you don't have to do this, but the sine of 40 is the same as sine of 40 over 1, right? Is there something here that you could do, or something that we've done in the past, think ratios, think proportions, that might help you solve for W? Think cross products, think cross multiplication, think getting the variable alone now. Tiffany, the song we started singing from the very first day of the year when we started in math. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do to solve for W? So, Pranav? Nope. That's not what I want to do. Cross products. Anybody want to do cross products? Yeah. Check this out. Let's go sine of 40 times what? W. Times W equals what? 10. Now Pranav says, why don't you do 0.643 times W equals 10? Is the sine of 40 truly 0.643? No. It's 0.643 blah, 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 right? Yeah. Okay, so do we want to round when we're calculating the answer? Yes or no? No, we don't want to round in the middle of our calculation. We can round our answers. When you go up at 14, we round it approximately the sine of 40. That's why we use these squiggly lines. It's approximately 0.643. So in this case, we have to leave it as sine of 40. And how are we going to get the variable all by itself? This is where your training kicks in. Sine of 40 is a number. It's 0.643 approximately. So how are we going to get W all by itself? Gloria.
Divide by 0.643.
We're not dividing by 0.643 because 0.643 is not the sine of 40. It's approximately the sine of 40. We are going to divide by what, Christina?
40?
No, we're not dividing by 40. There is no number up there that's 40. 40 is sine of 40. What are we dividing by? Isa? We're dividing by the sine of 40. The only way to get W by itself is to divide by the sine of 40, which is approximately 0.643, but it's not 0.643. It's approximately 0.643. So if we divide by sine of 40 on the left and we divide by sine of 40 on the right, we are canceling sine of 40 out here. And we got ourselves W equals 10 divided by sine of 40. So in your calculators, type in 10 divided by, I think you're going to have to type in 40 and hit sine. Hit the equals button. And what do you get? W is going to be what length, Jakai? So you're rounding to the nearest hundredth? Jakai says 15.56, rounded to the nearest hundredth. And what would be my label, Jakai? We're doing sides, not angles. Say again? Units. So W equals 15.56 units. So we have now solved for W. Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. Next to your W, we don't usually do this since we've solved, but next to your W, I want you to write in 15.56, and that's an approximation because we rounded. And then I want you to look at number 14 where it says sine of 40 equals approximately 0.643. The ratio, anytime you're calculating the sine of 40 degrees, should be 0.643. So that means, since sine is opposite over hypotenuse, 10 over 15.56. What is 10 divided by 15.56? What is 10 divided by 15.56? Approximately. Let's go to the nearest, say, thousands. Madison, what is it? Round to the nearest thousand. So it equals 0.643. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So did you see how we use sine of 40? Anytime you have an angle measurement of 40 degrees and you find the sine of it, the ratio of the opposite over the hypotenuse is always going to be 0.643. Whatever this number is right here, opposite, whatever this number is right here, is going to give you a ratio of 643 thousandths approximately. Yes, no?
Yes.
You guys make that leap with me there? This is where you're going to have to really think. So if I had sine of 40 and this was, and you don't write this down right now, but this was 9, what would W be? W would be not 15.56, it would be whatever would make 0.643 with the number 9. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes.
So ultimately we're to our point here is when you're using trigonometry, sine, cosine, and tangent just give you ratios of two sides, and no matter what the angle measurement is going to be, if the angle measurement was 36 degrees, go ahead and type in your calculator. Type in tangent 36. See what happens. Type in tangent of 36. What do you get, Michael? 0.727. So 0.727. So anytime you're taking the tangent of 36 degrees, anytime you have 36 degrees and you're calculating OA, TOA, SOHCAHTOA, opposite over adjacent, it's going to have a ratio of 0.727. Raise your hand if you are on board. You're like, okay, I think I get that kind of. Raise your hand if you're not quite there yet. And it's okay not to be quite there yet. Raise your hand if you're confident. You're like, that makes total sense, Mr. Podger. Total sense. Raise your hand if you're like, yeah, I think I'm getting it, but I need time. So about half and half.